I never thought I would be the kind of man to tell a story like this. But here I am, sitting alone, thinking back to a time when I thought love was simple, when I believed in forever. I met Claire when I was 27. I still remember the way she laughed. Light, like a song caught on the breeze. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, both reaching for the last slice of pizza, laughing awkwardly as our hands brushed. Some things, they say, are meant to be. At least, that's what I told myself back then. Claire had this warmth about her. The way she looked at you when you spoke, as if you were the only person in the world. It's intoxicating, being seen like that. Especially for someone like me, just an ordinary man with simple dreams. A good job, a modest apartment, a plan to build something lasting. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Nothing extravagant, just a small dinner by the lakeside, the ring tucked inside a dessert she almost didn't order. When she said yes, tears spilling down her cheeks, I thought I had won the lottery of life. Our wedding was a small sunlit affair, friends and family gathered, laughter ringing out across the green fields. My mother cried during the vows. Claire's father, a stiff, unsmiling man, shook my hand a little too hard, but even he managed a few kind words. For a time, life felt easy, comfortable. We moved into a little house with a white fence and a red door, the kind of house you see on postcards. We adopted a dog, a clumsy golden retriever who couldn't keep his tail from knocking things over. At night, Claire would curl up against me, whispering dreams of our future. The kids we'd have, the places we'd travel, the life we'd build together. I believed her. I believed in us. I think back now to the tiny cracks I didn't see, or didn't want to see. The late nights at work that started to pile up. The new passwords on her phone. The way she'd turn away when I tried to hold her a little longer, kiss her a little deeper. But love makes you blind. I told myself she was just stressed, that building a life together was hard work, that her distance was temporary. I ignored the signs. I was a fool, but I was a fool in love. The first real blow came one rainy Thursday evening. I was waiting for Claire to come home. Dinner was getting cold on the table. Our dog was restless, pacing by the door, ears pricking at every passing car. Hours passed. No message. No call. Finally, around midnight, she stumbled through the door, reeking of cheap perfume and alcohol. Her makeup was smeared, her hair tangled. She laughed it off, mumbling something about an after-work celebration. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. I helped her into bed, pulled the blanket over her, brushed the hair from her face. That night, as I lay beside her, staring into the darkness, something inside me shifted. A tiny splinter lodged itself deep inside my heart. And no matter how tightly I clung to our love, that splinter began to fester. It didn't happen all at once. These things never do. There were good days, of course. Days where she looked at me with soft eyes, kissed me in the morning, sent me silly texts during the day. Little moments that made me think, maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe love was still enough. But the distance grew. The laughter faded. The touch that once comforted became mechanical, hollow. Then came the news. Claire sat me down one evening, her hands trembling slightly. She was pregnant. I should have been overjoyed. We had talked about children for so long. We even had names picked out. Anna for a girl, James for a boy, and yet, all I felt was fear. A cold, creeping dread that coiled itself around my heart. Still, I smiled. I hugged her. I whispered how happy I was. Because that's what love does, right? It forgives. It believes. It hopes. I buried my doubts so deep inside myself that I could barely hear them. For the next few months, I played the part of the doting husband. I went to doctor's appointments. I painted the nursery. I read every book I could find about fatherhood, desperate to be ready, desperate to be good enough. Claire glowed. Everyone said so. She posted pictures online, bump updates, maternity shoots, ultrasound images with captions like, "Can't wait to meet our little miracle." I told myself I was overreacting, that everything would be okay. But late at night, when the house was quiet and Claire was fast asleep beside me, I would lie awake, wondering, whose miracle was she carrying? I tried to bury my doubts. I told myself that love was a choice, that trust was a decision you made every single day. So I chose to trust her, even when it felt like I was dragging that trust behind me, bloody and broken. The months passed in, a strange blur of baby showers, shopping trips, and endless advice from friends and family. Everyone said the same thing. You two are going to be such amazing parents. And every time they said it, I smiled, even as a little voice inside me whispered that I was living someone else's life. Claire seemed happy, more alive than she had in months. She fussed over baby clothes, painted tiny animals on the walls of the nursery, cradled her growing belly with both hands like it was the most precious thing in the world. Sometimes I caught her staring at her phone with this strange, little smile on her lips. When I asked, she would laugh it off, claiming it was just baby apps, parenting forums, endless advice from other mums-to-be. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But love, real love, doesn't live on blind faith alone. One night, while she slept, I found myself staring at her phone across the room. It sat there, glowing faintly, a silent guardian of secrets I wasn't sure I wanted to know. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I felt like a criminal, an intruder in my own life. The phone was locked, of course, a password I didn't know, or maybe one she had changed without telling me. I put it back, heart pounding so loudly I was sure it would wake her. I didn't sleep that night. A few weeks later, Claire went into labor. It was a difficult birth, long, exhausting, filled with tense moments and whispered conversations between doctors and nurses. I held her hand the whole time, murmuring words of encouragement, wiping the sweat from her brow. When the baby was finally placed in her arms, she wept, tears streaming down her face, body shaking with relief and joy. I looked at that tiny, wrinkled, little face and felt something shatter inside me. Because he didn't look like me, not even a little. Dark hair, sure, but the nose, the eyes, the shape of his chin, all wrong. Too wrong. Still I forced a smile. I kissed Claire's forehead. I held her, son. I told myself that babies change, that appearances shift as they grow, that love would conquer, even this. For a time, it almost did. The first few months were a blur of sleepless nights, diaper changes, feedings at 3 a.m., while Claire snored softly in the next room. I told myself that maybe love wasn't about certainty. Maybe it was about commitment, about choosing someone even when the world gave you 1,000 reasons not to. But life has a cruel way of bringing the truth to light. It started innocently enough. A conversation with a friend at work. A casual joke about how much the baby looked like me. Or rather, how he didn't. The words struck deeper than they should have. That night, I stared at myself in the mirror, studied my face, my features. Then I looked at the photos of our son on the fridge. The differences were glaring. The doubts that I had tried so hard to bury clawed their way back to the surface, stronger, fiercer than ever before. Still, I hesitated. Still, I waited. Until one evening, while organizing some insurance paperwork, I stumbled across an advertisement tucked inside the envelope. DNA testing. Discreet, reliable, affordable. I stared at it for a long time. My hands were shaking when I ordered the kit online. A small box arrived 3 days later, plain and unmarked. I waited until Claire was out running errands. I swabbed the inside of my son's mouth, sealed the sample, and sent it off, heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to escape. Then came the waiting, longest 2 weeks of my life. Claire noticed the change in me. Of course she did. She asked if I was okay, if work was stressing me out, if I needed a break. I smiled. I kissed her forehead. I lied, because some lies feel kinder than the truth. The night the results arrived, I almost couldn't open the email. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen, the cursor blinking in silent accusation. Finally, with a deep, shuddering breath, I clicked, and there it was. Simple, clinical. Probability of paternity, 0%. 0. I stared at those two little numbers for what felt like an eternity. 0. Not a shred of doubt, not a fraction of hope. The baby, the child I had fed, changed, sung to sleep, was not mine. And Claire had known. Deep down, she had to have known. The walls around my heart, the ones I had so carefully rebuilt after every suspicious night, every secretive glance, every evasive smile, they crumbled into dust, and yet I didn't rage, I didn't scream. I sat there, numb, feeling the last pieces of the life I had believed in slipping quietly through my fingers. In the days that followed, I found myself walking through my own house like a ghost. I watched Claire coo over the baby, laugh at his tiny expressions, cradle him close with a tenderness that should have made me ache with love, but only filled me with a hollow, gnawing sadness. I wanted to confront her. I wanted to demand the truth, but something in me held back. A part of me wanted to wait, to see what she would do, to give her one last chance to tell me the truth. Because if she didn't, if she looked me in the eye and lied again, I knew then that I wouldn't just walk away. I would leave a scar she would never forget. I didn't confront her. Not at first. There was a strange kind of power in holding the truth inside me. A truth she didn't know I carried. It gave me time to watch her differently, to see the cracks she thought she had hidden. When Claire smiled at me now, I smiled back. When she kissed me goodbye, I kissed her too. But behind my eyes, I was studying her. Every word, every glance, every hesitation. It's funny how, once you know someone's betrayed you, the past rewrites itself. Every memory, every moment you once held dear, it shifts under the weight of new understanding. I saw now how often her phone had been glued to her hand. How many late meetings ended in coldness and guilt. She had lied to me so easily, so effortlessly, and yet, even knowing everything I knew, part of me still ached for her. That's the cruelest thing about betrayal. It doesn't kill love all at once. It lets it bleed out, slow and painful, like a wound that refuses to close. I didn't want revenge for the sake of pride. I wanted justice for the life she stole from me. But I would not become small and angry. I would not shout or throw things or make a scene. I would be patient. I would be quiet. I would let her destroy herself. Over the next few weeks, I changed, but not in ways Claire could easily see. I started staying late at work, picking up extra projects, meeting new people. I began going to the gym again, running, until my lungs burned and my mind emptied of everything but the rhythm of my breath. Piece by piece, I was rebuilding the man I had let love make soft. Not bitter, not cruel, stronger. I didn't withdraw from Claire completely. That would have been too obvious. Instead, I became content. Detached in a way she couldn't quite name, but could feel in her bones. She tried to bridge the distance a few times, planning date nights, buying me small gifts, laughing a little too hard at my old jokes. It must have terrified her, on some deep level, to feel me slipping away and not know why. but it was nothing compared to the fear that was coming. I had no intention of confronting her in private. No whispered arguments in our kitchen. No slammed doors in the middle of the night. No, I wanted witnesses. I wanted the truth to shatter her carefully curated life like a stone through stained glass. And so I waited. I planned. In the meantime, Claire continued playing house. She decorated the baby's first nursery photos with captions like "Blessed beyond words." She posted anniversary pictures of us, smiling, happy, in love, to friends and family, online. Each post was a lie, a beautiful, polished lie, and I let her tell it, because the higher she climbed, the harder she would fall. Sometimes, late at night, I would watch her sleeping. Her face, peaceful in the soft light, still looked so familiar, so achingly beautiful. There was a time when I would have given anything to protect that peace. Now, I saw it for what it was, the calm before the reckoning. I thought about the man, the one who had helped her betray me. I didn't know who he was yet. I didn't even know if she still spoke to him, or if he was just a ghost from a mistake she wished she could erase. But that didn't matter. The betrayal lived between us, poisoning every breath, every touch, every shared moment. It didn't matter how she cried when the baby was sick. It didn't matter how she whispered, "I love you," against my skin. The damage was done, and when the moment came to reveal it all, I would be ready. One afternoon, as I sat in a quiet cafe after work, sipping a coffee I barely tasted, a thought occurred to me. Why should I settle for just walking away? Why not make sure she understood, truly understood, what she had done, not just to me, to our families, to her own child, to everyone who had believed in her perfect little life? I smiled. The first real smile I had felt in months. It wasn't born of anger or bitterness. It was born of clarity. She had made her choices. Now she would live with them. I started making arrangements, small things at first, gathering documents, printing out the DNA test results, finding old text messages she had forgotten to delete from our shared laptop. I even found an old conversation thread where she joked with a friend about how complicated things had gotten, how she hoped the timing worked out. My stomach twisted at the casual cruelty of it, but I kept reading, kept gathering. I wasn't planning a fight. I was building a case. Because when the day came, there would be no screaming, no accusations, no desperate denials. There would only be facts, and the undeniable, brutal truth. At home, Claire continued to smile and laugh and plan as if nothing had changed. She didn't notice how my hugs had lost their warmth, how my kisses brushed her cheek instead of her lips, how I no longer said, "I love you," first. Or maybe she noticed, but pretended not to. Pretending was easier, after all. We were, both pretending, playing a part in a crumbling play whose ending had already been written. The day of our wedding anniversary was approaching. 5 years. Half a decade of promises, some broken before they even left her lips. She suggested a party, a small gathering of family and close friends. At first, I hesitated. Then I realized it was perfect. There, surrounded by the people she had lied to for so long, I would give her the one thing she truly deserved: the truth. The day of the anniversary party drew closer, and with it, a strange stillness settled over me. It wasn't nerves. It wasn't regret. It was something colder, sharper. A quiet certainty that everything was unfolding exactly as it needed to. Claire threw herself into the preparations with a kind of desperate joy, ordering decorations, planning the menu, fussing over every little detail like this night would somehow fix everything broken between us. I let her. I encouraged her. I stood by as she picked out matching outfits for our little family. Crisp, white shirts, pale blue accents. the picture of happiness. I smiled for photos. I kissed her forehead. I played my part perfectly. Because if she was going to fall, she needed the illusion to be complete. I spent my nights preparing. There were things to print, messages to organize, pieces of evidence to lay out cleanly, neatly. No emotion, no accusations. Just the truth, undeniable and merciless. I thought about confronting her privately, one final time, giving her a chance to confess. But then I remembered the way she had looked me in the eyes every day, loving, trusting, smiling, all while carrying another man's child inside her. No. She had made her choices in silence. She would face their consequences in the light. I printed the DNA results on heavy cardstock. I arranged screenshots into a simple slideshow, short, brutal, irrefutable. I even wrote a few notes to myself to make sure I didn't lose focus when the emotions inevitably threatened to overwhelm me. I wasn't doing this out of anger anymore, was doing it for closure. For myself. For the man I had been before all of this. The man she had used, lied to, betrayed. He deserved to be heard. The night before the party, I lay awake beside Claire, listening to the soft rhythm of her breathing. For a brief moment, I almost broke. I almost reached out, almost shook her awake, almost begged her for the truth. One last chance to be honest, one last chance to show some shred of decency. But I didn't. Because deep down, I knew that if she had truly loved me, even a little, she never would have lied in the first place. People don't destroy the ones they love. Not like this. I turned away from her and stared into the darkness until morning. The day of the party dawned bright and clear, a cruel contrast to the storm building inside me. Friends and family trickled in through the afternoon, arms full of gifts and good wishes. Laughter echoed through the house. The smell of food filled the air. Claire floated through the rooms like a queen, radiant, beaming, accepting congratulations and hugs and compliments with practiced grace. Our son, the son who was not mine, gurgled happily in the arms of Claire's mother, who kept remarking how much he looked like her side of the family. I moved among them, smiling, laughing, playing the part I had always played. But inside, I was counting the minutes, waiting, watching. Small projector was already set up in the living room, hidden behind a stack of innocent-looking photo albums. The screen hung discreetly on the wall, ready to light up with everything she had tried so hard to hide. At exactly 6 p.m., Claire clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. "I just want to say," she began, her voice trembling with what she probably thought was genuine emotion, "how grateful I am for all of you, for your love, your support, your belief in us." She smiled at me then, wide, adoring, full of the kind of affection that might have made me believe her once. "Not anymore. I love this man more than words can say," she said, reaching for my hand. "He's been my rock, my best friend, the father of our beautiful son." The room erupted in applause, and that was my cue. I squeezed her hand gently and let go. Stepping forward, I cleared my throat. "If you'll all indulge me," I said, voice steady, calm, "I have a little something prepared, a few memories, and a few truths." There were cheers, whistles, people settled in, expecting a sweet slideshow of vacations, baby photos, anniversaries. I turned on the projector. The first few slides were exactly what they expected. Photos of Claire and me laughing, holding hands, smiling under Christmas lights. The room was filled with soft laughter, sighs of nostalgia, and then the screen flickered. New images appeared, screenshots, messages, dates. Claire's words in black and white. "I don't know if it's his. I'm scared. God, I hope he never finds out." Confusion rippled through the room. Whispers, frowns. Claire turned to me, her face frozen, a smile half-formed and dying on her lips. Another slide. The DNA test results. Percent. Silence fell like a hammer. I let it linger, let the truth seep into every corner of the room. Finally, I spoke. I loved you, I said, my voice low but carrying. I built my life around you, around the promises you made. Claire opened her mouth. To deny, to plead, I'll never know. Because I didn't let her. You didn't just lie to me, I continued, steady as a surgeon. You lied to everyone. Your family, your friends. You lied to your own son. The room was deathly quiet now. All eyes were on her. No one rushed to her defense. No one interrupted. Because the truth was right there, unarguable, in black and white. Claire's face crumpled. Tears filled her eyes. Her mouth opened and closed, desperate to find words that wouldn't come. I watched her crumble, and for the first time in months, I felt free. Not victorious, not vengeful, just free. I picked up my jacket from the chair, turned to the room full of stunned faces, and said simply, "Thank you for coming. I won't be staying." And without looking back, I walked out into the cool evening air, feeling the weight of years lift off my shoulders with every step. The cool evening air wrapped around me like a balm. Each step away from that house, from that lie, felt lighter than the last. It was as if the chains she had wrapped around my heart for so long had finally broken, links falling away one by one. Didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could already imagine the chaos unfolding behind me. Whispered conversations, stunned faces, a sea of eyes turning toward Claire with questions she could never answer. And Claire herself, standing there amidst the wreckage of her perfect life, grasping for a reality that no longer existed. I didn't go home that night. Had already packed a small bag days ago, tucked it neatly in my car's trunk, waiting for this moment. A cheap motel on the edge of town welcomed me with the kind of quiet anonymity I needed. The room was small, sterile, a single bed, a desk, a window overlooking the parking lot. Perfect. I sat on the bed, staring at the plain white wall, letting the silence seep into my bones. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was alone with myself. No lies, no pretending, just the raw, aching truth. I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, my phone was flooded with messages. Dozens of missed calls from Claire. Texts ranging from desperate apologies to furious accusations. Messages from friends and family, confused, concerned, curious. I turned the phone off and placed it face down on the nightstand. I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. She needed to sit in the wreckage a little longer. She needed to feel the weight of what she had done. This was her fire to walk through, not mine. 2 days later, I returned to the house, not to reconcile, not to argue, just to take what was mine and leave. I found Claire sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by half-packed boxes, clutching a stuffed animal from the baby's nursery to her chest. Her face was pale, her eyes red and swollen, from crying. When she saw me, she scrambled to her feet, rushing toward me like a drowning woman reaching for a lifeline. "Please," she choked out, grabbing my arm. "Please, just let me explain." I stepped back, out of her reach. "There's nothing left to explain," I said quietly. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I made a mistake," she sobbed. "It meant nothing. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you." "You had years to tell me," I interrupted, my voice still, calm, almost gentle. "You chose to lie." Over and over. "I love you," she whispered, broken. I looked at her for a long moment. Maybe once hearing those words would have cracked me open. Maybe once I would have fought to believe them. Not anymore. "I believe," I said slowly, "that you loved being loved. There's a difference." She sank to the floor, sobbing. I didn't comfort her, not out of cruelty, but because it wasn't my burden to carry anymore. I moved through the house methodically, packing what was mine: clothes, books, old photographs, things that mattered, things that still belonged to the man I refused to lose. Claire followed me from room to room, pleading, bargaining, promising. "I'll do anything," she cried. "Therapy, counseling, whatever you want." I paused for a moment, staring at the woman I had once planned to grow old with. "I wanted honesty," I said softly. "I wanted loyalty. I wanted the life we promised each other." I shook my head. "I don't want anything more from you now." Her face crumpled, as if the final tether had snapped. Good. It needed to. As I was leaving, she made one last desperate attempt. "What about him?" she cried, gesturing toward the baby's room. "He still needs you. You're the only father he's ever known." I stopped, hand on the door. The pain in her voice was real. Maybe for the first time, completely real. But I didn't turn around. "I loved him," I said, voice thick. "I still do, in a way. None of this is his fault." I swallowed hard. But loving someone doesn't always mean you stay. And with that, I stepped outside, closing the door behind me with a quiet finality that echoed louder than any shouted goodbye. The days that followed were strange, quiet, weightless. Word travelled fast in our small circle of friends and family. Some people tried to reach out, to offer sympathy or advice. Others kept their distance, uncomfortable with the messy, human reality of betrayal. I didn't blame them. Pain makes people uneasy. It reminds them how easily their own carefully built lives could crumble. I didn't explain myself to anyone. I didn't owe anyone explanations. Claire tried, though. I heard from mutual friends that she told different versions of the story to different people, spinning half-truths, framing herself as confused, overwhelmed, misunderstood. I let her. I didn't fight her narrative because the truth didn't need my defense. It stood on its own, cold, silent, undeniable. And the people who mattered, the people who truly knew me, didn't need to be convinced. They saw. They understood. One evening, about a month after everything fell apart, I found myself back at the same lakeside where I had proposed to her 5 years ago. The sunset painted the water in deep shades of gold and crimson. I stood there for a long time, watching the ripples catch the last light of day, feeling the cool breeze against my skin. And I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken. I was free. I had survived the worst of it, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the collapse of the future I thought I wanted. And somehow, standing there with nothing but the clothes on my back and the open sky above me, I felt more whole than I had in years. There's a certain peace that comes from knowing you walked through the fire and came out stronger, not untouched, but stronger. I turned away from the water, slipping my hands into my pockets, and smiled to myself. The story with Claire was over, but my story, it was just beginning. I thought I was done with her. I thought walking away would be the end of our story. But some endings aren't clean. Some endings demand a final reckoning. It came unexpectedly, a simple letter in the mail, from an attorney. Claire was contesting the divorce papers I had filed. She was asking for custody rights, alimony, child support, for a child that wasn't even mine. I remember sitting at my small kitchen table, the letter trembling slightly in my hand, not from fear, not from sadness, from something deeper, something colder. A realization that Claire wasn't just broken, she was desperate. Desperate enough to try and chain me to her life, even after everything. Desperate enough to pretend that the truth could somehow be erased if she just fought hard enough. I could have raged. I could have stormed into her life one last time, demanded she back down, thrown her lies in her face again. But I didn't, because real power doesn't shout. It whispers. It waits. It knows the truth always wins. Eventually. I called my attorney, a quiet man, with sharp eyes, who had seen too many cases like mine to be surprised. He listened carefully as I laid out everything: the affair, the DNA test, the public reveal. He nodded, took notes, and said only 3 words that made everything inside me settle. We will win, and we did. Claire's demands crumbled under the weight of the evidence, the DNA results, the screenshots, witnesses from the party who had seen her face, heard my words, felt the truth settle into their bones. In court, she looked so small. Gone was the radiant, perfect woman who once ruled every room she entered. She sat hunched at the table, clutching tissues, tears streaking her makeup, voice cracking as she tried to explain, to excuse, to beg. I sat there, silent, watching. Not out of cruelty, out of necessity. Sometimes the only way to heal is to see the truth laid bare, ugly and raw, until there's nothing left to hide behind. The judge was merciful, more merciful than I would have been. He ruled that I owed Claire nothing: no alimony, no child support, no ties. As for custody, the court acknowledged, in clear, cold language, that I was not the biological father, that I had no legal obligation to a child that wasn't mine. Claire wept as the ruling was read. Sobs that tore through the silent courtroom, sobs that once would have broken me, but now I simply watched, calm, steady, free. After the hearing, Claire approached me in the hallway. Her eyes were wild, red-rimmed, pleading. "Please," she whispered, "don't walk away from him. From us. There was no us anymore. There hadn't been for a long time." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw, maybe for the first time, the truth. Claire didn't miss me. She missed the man who believed her lies. She missed the life she built on my love, my trust, my hope. And now that it was gone, she was hollow. A queen without a crown. "I hope you find peace," I said quietly. Her face crumpled. "But it won't be with me." I turned and walked away without looking back. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel the weight of her anymore, only the weight of my own future, open, unwritten, full of possibility. It's been months now. Life is quieter these days, smaller maybe, but more real. I moved into a new apartment downtown. No red doors, no white picket fences, just clean walls, open windows, the sound of the city humming outside. I started traveling again. Something I hadn't done since before Claire. Weekend trips to places I had always meant to visit but never found the time. I even started dating again, carefully, slowly, not looking for anything serious, just honest conversations, real smiles, people without masks. It's strange, learning how to trust again. Strange, but not impossible. Hope is stubborn like that. It grows in the cracks. Sometimes people ask me if I regret it. If I regret loving Claire. If I regret the years we spent together. If I regret believing in a future that was never really mine. And the truth is, I don't. Not completely. Because even in betrayal, there are lessons. Even in heartbreak, there is growth. Claire taught me something, though not the lessons she intended. She taught me that love without trust is just a cage. That forgiveness without change is just permission to be hurt again. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. And most of all, she taught me that I am stronger than I ever thought I could be. Not because I didn't break, but because I did. And I put myself back together anyway, piece by painful piece. Stronger, sharper, wiser. There's a kind of freedom in surviving your worst days, in knowing that you've already faced the darkness and made it out the other side. Don't hate Claire. I don't even pity her. I simply let her go, like a stone falling into deep water, sinking far below the surface, where I no longer have to carry it. I carry only myself now, my hopes, my dreams, my future. And wherever that future leads, it will be mine, unburdened, undeniable, unbreakable. In the months that followed, I learned what healing really looks like. It's not dramatic, it's not cinematic, it's slow, ordinary, quiet. It's in the mornings you wake up and realize you didn't think about them first thing. It's in the nights you fall asleep without replaying every mistake. It's in the way your chest stops tightening every time you pass a place you once shared together. It's not forgetting, it's remembering and not hurting anymore. I found new routines. Morning runs through the park. Coffee at the little shop down the street where the barista started to remember my name. Long walks by the river on Sunday afternoons, where I watched the water move without rushing, without fighting, just flowing. Forward, always forward. I learned to enjoy my own company again, to sit with the silence and not fear it, to rebuild a life not out of desperation or habit, but choice. Real choice. One evening, I volunteered at a local shelter, something I had always said I would do but never made time for. There, among people who had lost so much more than I ever had, I found something unexpected. Perspective, gratitude, hope. A little boy with bright eyes and a mischievous grin tugged on my sleeve, showing me a drawing he had made. A house with a crooked roof, a smiling stick figure holding a balloon. "That's you," he said proudly. "You're helping." Something in my chest cracked open. Not the painful breaking I had known before. Something new. Something whole. It wasn't about replacing the life I had lost. It was about building a life I had never dared to imagine before. One rooted not in what others wanted from me, but in what I wanted for myself. Freedom, honesty, peace. The kind of peace that doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. The kind that comes from knowing you faced the storm and survived. Claire tried to reach out a few more times after the court hearing. Letters, emails, messages through mutual friends. Always the same mixture of apology and longing. Didn't respond, not out of anger, out of self-respect. Some bridges aren't just burned, they're meant to stay ashes, and I had no intention of building anything out of the ruins she left behind. She had made her choices, and finally I was making mine. There's something powerful about choosing yourself, about standing up from the wreckage, brushing the dust from your shoulders, and walking forward. Not because someone told you to, not because you have something to prove, but because you know, deep in your bones, that you deserve better. Not perfect, not painless, better. I started traveling more seriously. Small weekend trips turned into longer journeys, hiking trails through mountain ranges, wandering quiet villages where no one knew my name. I stood on cliffs overlooking endless oceans. I sat under ancient trees whose roots dug deep into the earth. I watched sunsets bleed across the sky like paintings no artist could ever hope to capture. And everywhere I went, I carried nothing but a backpack and a heart finally light enough to soar. One day, months later, I met someone new. Not in some grand, storybook way. At a bookstore, of all places. Both of us reaching for the same worn copy of a poetry collection. We laughed, talked, shared coffee at the little shop next door. It wasn't fireworks, it wasn't lightning. It was easy, comfortable, real. And that's what made it beautiful. For the first time, I wasn't looking to be saved. I wasn't looking to lose myself in someone else. I was just living, and maybe, just maybe, finding someone who was doing the same. We took it slow. No rushing, no expectations. Just two people with scars of their own, choosing to walk side by side for as long as it felt right. And every day, it felt a little more right. If you had asked me a year ago where I thought I would be, I never could have imagined this. I thought my life had ended when Claire's lies came crashing down around me. But the truth is, it was just beginning. Sometimes the universe breaks you not to destroy you, but to clear the way for something better, something truer, something you would have never dared to reach for if you had stayed comfortable. I'm not angry at Claire anymore. I don't wish her misery. I don't wish her anything at all. Her chapter in my life is closed, permanently, cleanly, not ripped out, not scribbled over, just finished. And every day I wake up, I write a new page, one filled with real laughter, real tears, real love. Not the kind that's borrowed or faked or conditional, the kind that stands on its own, even when no one's watching. Especially then, if you're listening to this, if you're standing in the ashes of something you thought would last forever. I want you to know, this isn't the end. It hurts. God, it hurts, but it's not the end. It's the beginning. The pain is a door. The betrayal is a key. Use it. Walk through it and build a life so honest, so free, so fiercely beautiful that the past can't even find you anymore. I did, and I promise you, you can too.